Okay, sige, okay na. So let's start again. By the contract of sale. Meaning contract daw siya. One of the contracting parties obligates himself to transfer ownership and deliver a terminating and the other to pay thereof a price certain in money or its equivalent. And then the second paragraph goes, a contract of sale may be absolute or conditional. Now, tapos naman na kayo sa obligations and contracts nyo. When we say by the contract of sale kasi, meaning a sale or a sale transaction is primarily a contract. And you've learned in your obligations and contracts that there are elements of a contract. Now, can anyone tell me what are those elements of a contract? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wala. Sige, Mr. ba to? Neil? Jasper Alindada? Mr. Neil? Alindada? Wala. If you are called and you're not answering, I will I will reflect that in your grade, okay? Miss Allison Bulaga. Miss Salva.
Sir, active subject po, which is also the obligee or the creditor. Sir, isa lang po ba ibibigay ko, sir?
Miss Salva. Wait lang ha.
Shani Lay po.
Shanley.
Apa.
Okay. Sinabi natin yung sale is a contract. Now, I'm asking you, what are the elements of a contract?
There,
Give me all.
okay, sir. First is the active subject or the person who demands the performance or payment of the obligation, which is also called the obligee or the creditor. Next is the passive subject who is bound to perform that the performance or the person who are going to pay the active subject. The passive subject is also called the obligor or the debtor. Then next is the prestation or the subject matter or object of the contract. Then it may be an obligation to give, to do, or not to do. Then the juridical or legal tie, which is also the efficient cause, which binds the contracting parties po.
Okay. Sige. Who has other answers? Thank you for that, Miss Salva.
Sir,
Sino yung nagsalita? Si Miss Nicole? Nicole ba yun?
yes po, sir.
Anong mo? Nicole Andres, sige.
Yes po, sir. So, based on my readings po, sir, the elements of contract is consent, subject matter, and price or what we call the cost or consideration po, sir. So, bali, sir, sa consent po, it is the meeting of the minds between two parties wherein each party is obligated to perform their obligations. So, the contract must be bilateral po. And subject matter, the determinating or the object of contract. And price or consideration, it gives rise to the perfection of sale po.
Okay, thank you for that. Oo, Miss Salva. Okay lang yan. So when we talk about Miss Nicole, those are the elements of a contract. Tama? If we relate that with sales, since we are under the contract of sales, can you determine the three elements as regards to a contract of sale? Miss Nicole.
Sir?
Can you determine dun sa elements ng contract if we are going to relate it with the contract of sale?
Yes po, sir.
Sige.
Sir, kasi hindi po magkakaroon ng perfection of sale of contracts if each of the elements is
Sige,
not
ganito.
satisfied po.
Say in a contract of sale, where can we say that there is consent? O yung ganon.
Sir, if there is a meeting of the
When can we
mind,
say that there is the subject or the object? When can we say that there is the cause or consideration? Sige.
sir, there is an agreement po, sir.
Saan yun?
Agreement, sir, in the case of nagkaroon po ng agreement si buyer at saka si seller
That
po.
is the first element, the
Yes
consent.
po, sir.
Yes.
Consent po.
The second element,
Subject matter, sir, wherein the seller will deliver determinating, sir, or there is a transfer of ownership po kay buyer. And the price naman po, sir,
can you clarify that one?
sa sa subject matter po, sir, it is the determinating po, sir, wherein the seller is obliged to transfer the ownership or to deliver a determinating.
Okay.
And for price or the cost or consideration po, dito na po magbabayad po si buyer po, sir.
Magbabayad na siya agad?
Sir?
Magbabayad siya agad?
Hindi po, sir. Like,
Paano,
perfection
paano
of sale, sir. Parang i-accept niya na yung i-deliver ni seller.
Okay. Miss Salva, redeem yourself. Oh. Sabi natin kanina, under the object or subject, it's a determinating. Question. If I have 5 cars, okay, I have 5 cars, and I will sell one of them to you, is that considered a determinating? Miss Salva.
Mm, Wait lang, sir.
1, 2, 3.
No, sir. It is generic because it is you have 5 cars po, sir. So,
Yeah, that is correct. That is not a determinating because you have 5 cars, you don't know kung saan dun sa 5 yung bibenta mo. Paano kung isa lang yung sasakyan ko and sinabi ko yung bibenta ko sa'yo? Is that a determinating?
yes, sir.
Why?
Because you only have 1 car, sir. So, that's
Correct.
your only car, sir.
Thank you for that. Isa pa kasi mali yung uno mo, no? Dapat isa pa para ma-redeem.
Apa, sir.
Yung sabi ni Miss Nicole kanina, under the third element, cost or consideration. Sabi niya dun, dun daw magbabayad. Do you agree with that? Miss,
Sir, ano po? Sorry, sir. Medyo ano po yung net namin, sir.
third element, yung cost or consideration, yung price daw dun daw magbabayad ng price. Do you agree with that?
No po, sir. I-identify pa lang po.
Identify yung price.
Yes, sir. Hindi pa magbabayad, sir.
I-identify lang yung price.
Opo, sir.
Yun lang. Paano kung gusto ko ng installment, gusto ni seller ng lump sum?
Ay, yun din po, sir. I-identify din po yung part, sir. Dapat certain kung paano yung payment po, hindi lang po yung
Bakit sabi dito sa batas, sabi niya, thereof, therefore, a price certain in money or its equivalent. Ang sinabi lang dito sa batas is yung price lang. Walang sinabi kung lump sum or installment. Paano kung nag-agree na kami sa price? Umayag si seller, ako si buyer. Is there already a perfected contract of sale? Kahit wala pa kami agreement whether lump sum or installment yung payment? One. 2.
No, sir. Kailangan din specify yung manner of payment.
Why?
Nandyan po sa sir, second paragraph.
Yeah, dito, nasaan? Second paragraph. A
If
contract of sale,
absolute or conditional siya, sir.
wala kang makitang manner of payment dyan. You stand by your answer, okay? You stand by your answer. Anyone? Anyone else? Miss Estrella, Marie.
Dun po sa price, sir, though wala namang sinabi dun sa, or in-specify dun sa article, pero ang disagreement kasi or agreement sa manner of payment is tantamount to the agreement din sa price din po, sir.
Babalik ka saan?
Sir?
Babalik ka saan when you talk about agreement or disagreement? Kung saan,
Sa consent po, sir.
yes, babalik ka sa consent. Tama yung sagot ni Miss Salva. Okay, tama din yung sagot mo na kapag nag-agree kayo sa price but you did not agree as to the manner of payment, then there is no perfected contract of sale. Basically, because there is no consent, and one, the manner of payment, and the second one, the manner of payment is not agreed upon. Okay, even if the price has been agreed upon, if hindi nyo napag-usapan kung paano ang bayaran, lump sum, minsanan, installment, 2 gives, 3 gives, di ba? Wala. Okay? And then, if there a contract of sale, maybe absolute or conditional. Sorry for that. Anong ibig sabihin natin dito, Miss Estrella?
Sir, pardon po, nag-lag po kasi yung kaninang sinabi mong tanong po.
Yung second paragraph.
Yes po, sir.
Okay.
I-explain ko po, sir.
The contract of sale is absolute when is it conditional?
So, a contract of sale may be absolute or conditional po. Pag absolute kasi, there is no condition attached to the contract. Well, conditional, there is a condition attached in the contract. Though, nung binabasa ko po to, sir, is parang naguguluhan ako kasi in a contract, di ba, there is still a condition, something like, for example, sa price natin, and may mga considerations na or condition tayo na sinusunod, like about sa manner of payment, ganon. So, hindi pa masyadong clear sa akin yung about sa pagkasabing absolute. Yes po, sir.
Yeah. Yung conditions na sinasabi mo kasi kanina,
Yes po, sir.
yun yung terms. Terms of the contract.
Yes.
If you have other obligations that you have to do, take note, in a contract of sale, ang primary obligation ng one of the contracting parties, which we call the seller or the vendor, okay, ang primary obligation niya, transfer the ownership and deliver a determinate thing. Naman yung isa naman, yung isang contracting parties, which we call the buyer or the vendee, okay, has an obligation to pay a price, certain in money or its equivalent. Ngayon, in a contract, they can add additional obligations. Okay, they can add additional obligations or additional terms in a contract. Pero kapag dependent siya dun sa fulfillment ng isang contract, it becomes a conditional one. Okay? Ang absolute kasi, hindi na siya masususpend or extinguish. Okay? Kapag hindi nagawa yung, or hindi nila nagawa yung obligations nila. Sa conditional kasi, nakadepende yung extinguishment or suspension ng contract of sale sa kanya. We'll discuss this more later. Thank you for that, Miss Estrella. Yun nga. So, na-explain ko na kanina ito. A contract of sale is originally a contract. Yeah, I will eat later. Okay, I have class. You get to close the door. Ang sabi natin kasi, contract of sale is a contract. So, we have the three elements. Okay na yan. Okay na kayo dyan. When we say it's a contract, it must be based on consent. And when it's based on consent, it's a consensual contract wherein a contract of sale may be perfected by mere consent. So, when we say by mere consent, paano na-perfect ang isang contract of sale? Give a scenario. Can you give an example? Anyone? Paano na-perfect ang isang contract of sale? When do we say that contract of sale is already perfect or it's already been perfected? Paano? Anyone? Wala? John, Victor.
Sir, hindi po ako sure pero try ko lang po. For example po is, si seller po is nag-offer siya kay buyer and si buyer is inaccept po yung offer ni seller. May meeting of the minds na po, parang ganun.
Okay. Sige. Tama. That's correct. Meron ng meeting of the minds. Meron ng consent. Therefore, from that moment, perfected na ang contract of sale. Tanong, itong meeting of the minds na to, Mr. John, ano yung mapagkasusunduan nila dito?
Yung ganun po, sir, yung object to be sold, sir, and yung amount po ng object na nititinda, sir, or ng ting.
Okay. And the manner of
Payment, sir.
the price, the manner of payment, and then the object or the determining thing or the subject. Absence of one element negates perfection. Therefore, there is no juridical relation. There is no contract of sale to speak of. So, kahit pa meron ng magbabayad dyan, kung wala namang meeting of the minds, walang contract of sale. Okay? Kahit pa meron ng price and determining has been specified or determined, kung hindi nag-agree sa manner of payment, walang contract of sale. There are three stages to a contract of sale. Number 1, negotiation. Number 2, perfection. Number 3, consummation. Negotiation, from the time one of the contracting parties indicate interest in the contract until perfection. Sabi nga ni Mr. John kanina, when one party sells and the other party accepts payment. So merong offer and acceptance. Okay? But sometimes, lalo na kung sa mga buyers na talagang nagbabargain. Okay? Kapag nag-offer si seller, magka-counter offer naman hindi siya mag-accept. Magka-counter offer naman si buyer. Tapos, si seller naman, pwede niyang i-accept yan or pwede siyang mag-counter offer. Okay? Hanggang sa yung isa sa kanila mag-accept. Pag may acceptance na dun sa proposal or sa negotiation, okay, meron na tayong tinatawag na perfection. Kasi meron ng meeting of the minds. Okay? Take note of that. Yan yung negotiation. Okay? Kapag bibili kayo sa palengke, di ba? Tumatawad-tawad kayo. Ayan na yun yung diniscuss natin. Yan na yun. Okay? These things happen in real life kasi Okay, hindi lang natin napapansin, but they happen actually every day. Okay, when we say perfection upon concurrence of the elements of sale, which we have discussed earlier, when there is a meeting of the mind with regards to the object and the price, especially to the manner of payment. Okay, and then consummation. When do we say that a contract of sale has already been consummated? Oh, Mr. John.
Sir, pardon po.
When do we say that the contract of sale has already been consummated?
When each of the parties perform their obligations, sir.
Which is
Wherein kay seller po is to deliver the thing and transfer the ownership, while kay buyer naman, sir, is to pay the things, sir.
oh, di ba? Very good. Next question. Is sale a mode of acquiring ownership? Anyone? Who's that? Miss Erica.
No, sir.
Oh, why?
Sir, yes, sir. The contract of sale is only constitutes a title or right to the acquisition or ownership of to the acquisition or ownership. Therefore, it is the tradition or the delivery of the terminating that which actually um does the transfer of ownership po.
Okay. Let's say, for example, Miss Erica, ako si Eric, I sold you my land. Okay? I sold you a piece of land. Binayaran mo, nagkabayaran. Of course, there is a sale. Tama?
Yes, sir.
Ako, na dating owner ng lupa, hindi na ako ang owner kasi ikaw na yung owner by virtue of sale. Tama?
Yes po.
So why then are you saying that sale is not a mode of acquiring ownership, wherein it is because of sale that you became the owner of that land or property?
Sir, sale parang yeah, only the title, sir, is
Oh,
um the contract of sale only constituted the title, sir, like the deed of sale po ganun. Pero saka lang po um ma mata-transfer yung ownership pag nakuha ko na po yung property, parang ganun po.
so sale is not a mode of acquiring ownership.
Yes, sir.
Paano naging ikaw yung may-ari dun sa lupa na binenta ko? Through
Through the delivery of or
hindi ba through sale? Oh, sige. Hold your shit. Anyone? Anyone else? Ano, Miss Erica? Tawag ako ha. Since wala naman. Miss Alison Bulaga. Alison Bulaga. Wala. Wala din. Sige. Miss...
Sorry lang.
Ah?
Yes po. Yes po yung sagot ko.
Sale is a mode of acquiring ownership.
Opo. Kasi nata-transfer po yung ownership. Pag na-perfect na po yung contract, ganun po.
So you are disagreeing with Miss Erica.
Yes po.
So it is a mode of acquiring ownership because
Kasi nata-transfer po yung ownership na perfect na po yung contract.
kaya siya yung mode.
Opo.
How about you, Miss Erica? Do you stand by your answer?
Sir, no pa rin po. Yung kwan lang po, yung nakikreate lang po nung contract of sale is the obligation po nung seller to the obligation to transfer the ownership. So, saka lang po, yung mode po ng acquiring ownership is yung pag sa delivery na po ng delivery na po nung property, which can be the legal delivery po.
Which is delivery. Delivery lang. Huwag mo nalagyan ng legal delivery.
Okay po, sir.
Oo. Hindi kailangan lahat may legal. Tines lang kita kung alam mo actually yung binasa mo. Kasi nasend ko naman yan in advance kaya nabasa niyo yan. Alam ko yan. I'm just testing if you really understood what I've given in the LMS. Di ba? Nandiyan na yan, naka-PDF, naka-PowerPoint pa ata. Tapos nakalagay pa sa topic discussion. So alam ko na alam niyo yung sagot. Sa akin lang is naintindihan niyo ba? But that is correct actually. Sale is not a mode of acquiring hindi kontra ka ownership. Okay, sale is not a mode of acquiring ownership. Why? Your legal basis will be Article 712 of the Civil Code, wherein it says there, ownership and other real rights over property are acquired. Ayun acquired. Paano ma-acquire ang ownership? Either by law, take note, by law, by donation, by testate or intestate succession, in consequence of contracts, and by tradition. So, dito lang pwedeng maka-acquire at maka-transfer ng contract. Wala nang iba. So, either it's stated by law or by donation, pag dinonate sa inyo ng parents, grandparents nyo, by succession, ang succession guys is, alam nyo ba yung last will and testament? Yan. Kung testate, ibig sabihin meron siyang last will and testament. Kung intestate, ibig sabihin namatay siya na wala siyang ginawang last will and testament. Okay, in consequence of contracts, certain contracts, and by tradition. Now, Miss Erica already mentioned that we acquired the property in a contract of sale, not by virtue of the sale itself, but by virtue of tradition. And when we say tradition, it is by virtue of delivery. So, okay, so it's not the contract of sale, hindi yung contract of sale or hindi yung sale ang mode of acquiring ownership, but rather it is the delivery. Okay? Sir, paano parang magulo? Yung sale is only a proof or an evidence or a title wherein the buyer and the seller has agreed to either transfer and deliver and to pay a price certain in money. A sale or a contract of sale only gives rise to obligations. Ano yung obligations na yun? Yung sabi natin kanina, obligation to transfer and deliver for the part of the seller and for the buyer to pay the price. So it's not the sale that is a mode of acquiring ownership, but rather it's the delivery. Doon lang nag-a-arise yung obligation and rights ng isang seller at isang buyer. Take note guys, ang isang contract of sale, whether verbal or written yan, ang isang contract of sale, diyan nanggagaling lahat ng rights at obligations ng parties, which are the seller and the buyer. Okay? Yun lang ang nagagawa ng contract of sale. Pero kung sasabihin mong yan yung nag-transfer ng ownership or yan yung mode of transferring ownership, no. No, it only evidences that there is a contract that transpired between the buyer and the seller. When we say mode, it is the legal means by which ownership is created, transferred, and destroyed. Okay? Therefore, a sale does not transfer or affect ownership. The most that sale does is to create the obligation. As I've said earlier, is to create the obligation to transfer ownership. Diba? Kung babalikan mo yung pinakaunang article, sabi niya, wherein the seller obligates himself to transfer the ownership and deliver a determinating. Dito pa lang, you can already conclude that the sale is not a mode of transferring ownership. Okay? And sabi nga ni Miss Erica kanina, sale is a title. Title is a legal basis to affect ownership. Okay? But, okay, wala na pala. Kala ko may iba pa. Yan lang ang magagawa ng title. Hindi niya matatransfer, hindi rin ma-acquire ng buyer. Ang magagawa lang ng isang sale or ng title is to affect its ownership with regards to its what it can prove. Diba? Kaya tayo merong mga cases in court because there are alleged contracts of sale being executed. Meron kasi ngayon, para ma-enlighten kayo guys, in the real world, merong mga spurious talaga na mga contract of sale na nag-a-arise. Okay? Meron ding contract of sale na nabili mo na pero nabenta na pala sa iba na ginugoyo ka lang pala ng seller. Meron mga ganun actually. And not everyone kasi is equipped with the legal knowledge to decipher that, especially that most of the population of the Philippines are poor and illiterate. Okay, kaya madaming nagugoyo. Okay? Kinds of contract of sale, as we have discussed earlier, absolute way, there are no conditions, and conditional wherein the property reserved for the seller until full payment of the price. We call this a conditional deed of sale. Conditional deed of sale or contract to sell. Contract to sell, guys. Ang ibig sabihin niyan, the seller retains the ownership of the property. Okay? Kahit merong in-execute na conditional deed of sale or contract to sell, si seller pa rin ang may-ari. Okay? Sir, paano naman si buyer? Under the conditional deed of sale or contract to sell, si buyer, meron siyang obligation to pay the price. Usually itong contract to sell and conditional deed of sale, installment yan. Babayaran niya yan. Let's say for example, seller nagbenta ng lupa kay buyer. Okay? Itong lupa, pwede nang i-occupy ni buyer. Okay? Habang nagbabayad. But during this time, habang nagbabayad, si seller pa rin ang may-ari. Walang lipatan ng title. Because it is still reliant, gaya ng sabi ko kanina, yung explanation ko kanina yung sa unang slide, it still relies on whether the buyer will fulfill his or her obligation to pay. Kung nag-stop siya ng 1 month or 2 months, merong merong remedy si seller. And ang importante doon, hindi pa na-transfer yung title. Okay? Ngayon, if ma-fully paid ni buyer yung price or yung purchase price, mag-i-issue na ba ng ililipat na ba yung title kay buyer? Hindi ka agad. Okay, maggagawa ulit sila ng isang contract. Ano yung contract na yun? Ito yung contract of sale or absolute contract of sale. Yan na yun. Na wala nang conditions imposed and pwede nang ilipat ni buyer yung title in his name. Okay? Yan yung conditional deed of sale or yung contract to sell na tinatawag natin. Okay? The seller retains ownership, okay, while the buyer fulfills his obligation to pay. If na-fulfill niya yung obligation to pay, okay, the seller and the buyer will execute a new document which is now called the absolute contract of sale or the absolute deed of sale for the buyer to transfer the title in his name. Ganun yung sa sale. Okay? And the essential elements, ito kasi na-discuss na natin kanina. Okay? Essential elements of contract of sale, we have the consent, which shows the meeting of the minds as to the object and price. Merong offer and acceptance. I've discussed this. And yung meeting of the minds, okay, hindi naman lagi kasi na yes or oo or pipirma. Meron kasi na yung acquiescence or yung pag-agree ng buyer can be manifested through the payment of purchase price. What if binayaran niya buo yung presyo? That is a sign that is an indication that there is already a meeting of the minds. Kung dineclare niya na yung property for taxation purposes, that is an indication that there is already a meeting of the minds. And pag nagbayad na siya ng real estate tax in cases of sa mga lupa or sa mga buildings or houses. Okay? If ever that a consent has been vitiated, such contract of sale may be annulled or rescinded or nullified. Okay? Depending on the circumstance. We'll discuss this more later. When we say object, yan na yung sinasabi natin, determinate, particularly designated or physically segregated from all others of the same class. As long as you can identify which object or subject you are going to sell or you're going to buy, then there could be an agreement as to the object. Even if quantity is not determinate, as long as it can be determined without a new contract. Okay? Miss Allison Buraga, are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Sige. Problem. Let's say, for example, I own a bodega wherein I have kilograms of rice there. Merong sako-sako ng bigas dun sa bodega na yun. Ngayon, andyan ka, buyer. I offered to sell to you lahat ng sako ng bigas na laman ng bodega ko. Okay? Is there a determinate thing? Is there a determinate thing there? Determinate thing ba yan? Meron ba?
Yes po, sir.
Why?
Kasi yung ibebenta mo po is yung laman ng bodega mo, hindi po laman ng bodega ng iba or kukuha ka po ng ibang products, yung sayo po, ganun po.
Kahit hindi naka-indicate kung ilan?
Kasi lahat naman po sabi.
Lahat ng nasa bodega.
Yes po. Hindi po siya.
Hindi ka sure. Paano kung isa lang yung laman?
Di determinate.
Determinate pa rin siya, hindi.
Yes po.
Determinate pa rin siya.
Yes po.
Yes, because basing on this, even if the quantity is not determinate, as long as it can be determined without a new contract. So for example, yun nga, isa lang ang bodega ko. Okay, yan sinabi ko na ibebenta ko lahat ng sako ng bigas dun sa bodega ko. So kahit ilan pa yun lahat yun yung subject ng sale. Okay? Sir, paano kung isa lang? Isa lang. Tapos ang benta is sobrang mahal. Then you can go to court. Hindi naman tayo, we're explaining these matters because it also comes from common sense din naman. Kung isa lang yung bodega niya at sabi niya lahat yun yung bibenta niya, so lahat yun yung binili mo. Pero at a fair price pa rin. You can always, pwede mo namang sabihan yung party mo na o yung seller, but yun, isa lang naman ang laman. Ganito yung pinagbili ko. Darating tayo dyan. Okay? Yun yung gross inadequacy of price. Or yung sosobra yung price na sinisingil ni seller. Nagiging unjust and unfair na yung price. Okay? You can always go to court kung hindi kayo magkausap ni seller. Pero ang magandang gawin is don't go to court kasi gagastos ka pa. Bayad ka ng abogado. Sakit sa ulo. Okay? And then, price. Okay? Sabi ko kanina, dapat mapag-agrihan yung price and yung manner of payment. Okay? So, Miss Alison, last. Are you there?
Yes po, sir.
Spirit of the glass, are you there? Yeah. Okay. Can the price be left to the decision of one party?
Pwede po siguro tapos mag-a-agree po yung isa. Ay, hindi po pala, sir. Hindi po pala. Nalito lang po. Hindi po pala, sir.
Sure?
Yes po. Ay, dapat po mag-agree po sila ganun. Kung may nag-offer po, i-accept po nung buyer ganun.
Ang tanong ko, can the price be left to the discretion of only one party?
No po, sir.
No.
Yes po.
Why?
Kasi po wala na pong, mawawala na po yung consent dun, sir. Dapat po mag-agree po silang dalawa. Ganun po. Dapat decision po nung dalawa. Ganun po ata.
Pumunta ka na ba sa loob? Pumunta ka na ba sa tindahan niyo?
Yes po.
Oh, di ba yung seller lang nagsiset ng price?
Opo.
Oh. Kung sabi mong no, di sana hindi pwede yun.
Wait lang, sir.
Tama naman yung sagot mo. Ikaw naman, tinitest lang kita.
Ay, sige po, sir.
Pwede yun. Pwede yung the general rule is in a contract, kung mag-agree kayong dalawa sa isang kontrata or sa isang sale transaction, hindi pwedeng maiwan lang sa isang party yung pag-determine ng price. Pero kung nag-offer itong isa at nag-agree itong isa, then nagbangga, there is meeting of the minds, then the contract of sale is deemed perfect. Okay? Ganun siya. So the general rule is hindi pwedeng iwan sa isa unless, ayun sabi niya dito, but if price is offered by a party and accepted by the other party, it gives rise to a perfected sale. So pwede siya. General rule lang, hindi pwedeng sa isa lang. Okay. And then, of course, you have to agree on the manner of payment, which is very important. And then, if the price is simulated or fictitious, ibig sabihin, wala talagang binayaran, wala ka talagang natanggap, wala talagang price. Pero nilagay lang dyan, nilagay lang sila ng value dyan para maging contract of sale. That could be annulled, rescinded, or nullified, or it can also be reformed. Okay, can be reformed. Kasi kung simulated price, let's say for example, your father sold the piece of land to you, pero yung price is simulated. Ibig sabihin, wala ka talagang binayaran, wala din siya talagang na-receive, pero meron kayong contract of sale. That is a simulated price. Because in reality, that one is a donation. Dinonate yan. Kasi wala ka naman talagang binayaran, di ba? That is a donation. Okay? Kaya siya pwedeng i-reform. Okay? Yun. Punta na tayo sa contract to sell. Yung na-discuss na natin to actually kanina, napasadahan ko kanina. Contract to sell is not a contract of sale. Why? Because it lacks consent. Kasi nga yung sabi ko kanina, the seller retains ownership, okay, until the buyer pays the full amount of the purchase price. Okay? So yung title na kay seller pa rin. Pero pwede nang i-occupy ni buyer yung, let's say for example, land, pwede niya nang i-occupy. Pag nabayaran niya yung full price, full purchase price, okay, mag-execute sila ngayon ng bago, which is now the contract of sale or the deed of sale or the absolute deed of sale. Okay, absolute deed of sale. Absolute contract of sale. Diyan na magpa-facilitate ng transfer ng title. Okay? It lacks consent because the seller does not agree to transfer the land. Okay? Hindi yan immediately. It rests on a condition that the buyer must pay the whole purchase price. Pag hindi niya nabayaran, walang talo si seller kasi siya pa rin ang may-ari ng lupa. Okay? Hindi siya nag-agree na i-transfer yung lupa. Dito lang siya mag-agree. Okay? Yan ang contract to sell. Kapag narinig niyo yung mga magulang niyo na nagbebenta ng lupa, yan usually yung ginagawa. Dalawang document ang ini-execute. Contract to sell or conditional sale or and then absolute deed of sale. Yan yung ginagawa. Seller does not yet agree to sell or transfer ownership until the happening. Sabi ko kanina pala. Seller only promises to sell dyan sa contract to sell. Pinapromise niya lang na ibebenta niya sa iyo basta mabayaran mo yan ng buo. Gagawa tayo ng contract of sale. Okay? Contract to sell is not a contract of sale. And then, next, gross inadequacy of price. Ito na yung sabi ko kanina kapag masyadong malaki yung difference sa price. Okay? Or, let's say for example, I sold my car which has a fair market value of 900,000 to you. Okay? To A, sabi mo na lang. I sold my car to A for the amount of 400,000. That 500k difference is actually gross. Malaki na yan. Kasi mas malaki pa yung natipid nung nagbayad kasi 400 lang binayaran niya. That's gross inadequacy of price. There are two scenarios here. In an ordinary sale or in a normal sale transaction, okay, gross inadequacy of price. When there's gross inadequacy of price, a contract of sale may be invalidated or if such inadequacy shocks one conscience. Parang ganyan. Masyadong mura yung pinagbenta. Pwede siyang ma-invalidate. Pwedeng ma-invalidate yung contract of sale. But if it's an execution sale, attorney, ano yung execution sale? Execution sale, usually a public auction or foreclosure sale. Foreclosure sale. Ibig sabihin, a property has been loaned or given as a collateral, di ba? At hindi mo nabayaran yung utang mo. When it has been subjected to a mortgage at hindi at hindi mo nabayaran yung utang mo, then therefore, that property may be foreclosed. That property may be foreclosed and that can be sold in a foreclosure sale or execution sale. Yan ang execution sale. Okay? Sabi dito, in an execution sale, kahit merong gross inadequacy of price, valid pa rin yung contract of sale. Why? Because in an execution sale, there is a right to redemption on the part of the judgment debtor. Sino tong judgment debtor? Ito yung umutang. Di ba sabi ko kanina, pag ginawa mong collateral yung lupa mo at na-foreclose, ayan, because of a mortgage contract or any loan contract, hindi ka nakapagbayad, na foreclose, na benta, yan, ikaw yung judgment debtor dyan. Ikaw na judgment debtor, meron kang right to redemption. Meaning, you can buy back the property na binenta sa isang execution sale. Okay, pwede mo siyang bilhin ulit. Okay? Kaya kapag binenta siya, let's say for example, gaya nitong example natin dito, kapag sa execution sale, nabenta siya at 400K, then you, as the judgment debtor or dating may-ari, pwede mo siyang bilhin at that amount. So nakatipid ka din ng 500. Kaya siya valid pa rin. Because there will be no loss on the judgment debtor but rather a gain from the low value sale. Okay? Did you understand? Sige. Let's proceed. There are 6 characteristics of a contract of sale. The first one is consensual because it can be perfected by mere meeting of the minds. It is bilateral because there are 2 parties that are bound by their obligations toward each other. So bilateral. Hindi lang isa yung may obligation, kundi dalawa sila. The seller to transfer and deliver, the buyer to pay. Onerous or burdensome because it involves a valuable consideration which is price certain in money or its equivalent. Babalik lahat sa 1458 dun sa unang article kanina. Commutative, thing of value, exchange for equal value, just like what I said kanina. Nominate, kapag sinabing nominate, the law or the civil code gives it a special name. Ang tawag dyan kasi contract of sale. Meron siyang pangalan. Unlike other contracts kasi na walang pangalan sa civil code. Okay? And then, principle, which means that a contract of sale can stand on its own or is an independent contract. It does not rely on another contract. Yan ang contract of sale. Those are the 6 characteristics of a contract of sale. Problem. Wait. Miss Angelica, Alicia Marie. Meron ka pa? Alicia, are you there? Alisa, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nag-disconnect siya. Nakita niyo naman. Naka-share screen. Angelica.
Yes, sir.
Angelica Asuncion. Yan. I have a problem for you.
Sige po.
Sige.
On January 19, sige po.
Kung gusto mo, ikaw magbasa.
Sige po. Ako na lang po. On January 19, 1985, A, B, and C executed a document entitled Receipt of Down Payment in Favor of R, which is reproduced here under.
Ito daw yung laman. Receipt of down payment 1,240 in total amount, 50,000 down payment, balance 1,1. Ito daw yung laman ng receipt of down payment. Yan. Yan daw yung laman.
Sige po, sir.
Ito yung laman niya. Received from Ms. R, the sum of 50,000 pesos. 50,000 pesos purchase price of our inherited house and lot in the total amount of 1.2 million. We bind ourselves to effect the transfer in our names from our deceased father, the transfer of certificate title immediately upon receipt of the down payment above stated. On our presentation of the TCT or transfer certificate of title already in our name, we will immediately execute the deed of absolute sale of said property, and Ms. R shall immediately pay the balance of the 1,190,000 pesos. So on January 15, nagkaabutan ng 50,000 na down payment. On February 6, the property was transferred in the names of A, B, and C. On February 18, ABC sold the property to Y. For this reason, A, B, and C canceled the contract with R and deposited the down payment in the bank account of Q in trust for R. Because of this, Q filed the case against A, B, and C. Question: is the receipt of down payment a perfected contract of sale? Sir, question. Yan daw. Ito kasi yung laman ng receipt of down payment. Is this a perfected contract of sale?
Wait lang, sir. Basahin ko lang po ulit to.
I'll give you 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3.
Sir, no po.
No? Why?
Sir, can I see po the receipt again po? Kasi sabi ito, immediately pay the balance of 1,100.
So for you, it's there is no perfected contract of sale, tama? Sige.
Think po, sir.
Miss Alisa, wala nang pala ka ba? Sinong gusto mag-recite? Ang daming tumutulong sa'yo. Mag-recite ka.
Hindi po.
April. Ano? Albano, April. Wala.
Sir. Sir,
Hello.
good evening po.
Good evening.
Sir, yes po.
Yes, it is. There is a perfected contract of sale.
Hello po.
Ano yung mic mo? Pakiayos mo muna yung mic mo.
Hello po, sir.
Ano siya?
Sorry po.
Maingay yung mic mo.
Sir, pwede po bang i-type na lang po yung sagot ko, sir?
I-type.
Hello. Okay.
Ayusin mo na lang yung mic mo muna. Tawag ko lang iba. Si Alisa, wala pa ba? Si Alisa ba yung kanina? Si Alisa ba yung nag-recite kanina? Hindi. Yung si Alisa yung malis. Nung tinawag ko siya. Si Angelica yung nag-recite kanina. Sabi niya, there is no contract. There is no perfected contract of sale. Sige. The answer here is there is a perfected contract of sale. Why? Kung babasahin yung Article 1458 kanina na discuss natin at tignan niyo lahat ng elements ng contract of sale, meron siya. Why? There is an agreement as to the price. Diba? There is an agreement as to the object or subject. Diba? Check na yan. Consent, object, price. Meron na yan. Paano yung consent? This has been, itong receipt of down payment, in-issue ito ng naka-receive. So, ang nag-issue dito is si A, B, at C. At sabi nila, we bind ourselves to effect the transfer in our names from our deceased father. The TCT immediately upon receipt of the down payment above stated. Sabi dito, upon immediately receiving the down payment, i-bind down nila yung sarili nila na i-transfer yung property sa name ni R. Nag-down naman na si R ng 50,000. So, ang may obligation na lang ngayon, tapos na si buyer, although meron pa siyang balance na 1,190, si seller na lang, based on the receipt of down payment na lang, ang may obligation to transfer. Okay? In our names from our deceased father to Miss R. Okay, so there is now the consent. Okay, so under this problem, there is a perfected contract of sale. Pag ang tanong lang naman guys, para naman, matulungan ko kayong sumagot, kapag ang tinatanong, perfected ba yung contract of sale or meron bang contract of sale? Babalik kayo lagi dun sa elements ng contract. I-determine nyo kung merong meeting of the minds. Diba? Meeting of the minds as to object and as to the price or the cost or consideration. Yan lang naman yan. Kung meron yan, nakita nyo sa problem yan, then yes, there is a perfected contract of sale. Okay? Sining kanina sa Angelica, no?
Yes, sir. Thank you po.
Ito, the parties had agreed to a conditional contract of sale, consummation of which is subject only to the successful transfer of the certificate of title from the name of A, B, and C's father to their names. Let's proceed to options. Ano yung option? Kung ano, ang option kasi guys, kung hindi lang ikaw, meron pang iba. At option ka lang. Saan ang option? No, kidding aside. An option is a contract. So, babalik na naman tayo sa contract. COC. Oh. Consent, object, price, or consideration, or cost. By which an owner of property, meaning yung may-ari ng property or would-be seller, agrees with another person. This one is your would-be buyer, that he shall have the right to buy his property at a fixed price within a certain time. So, ang option contract in a simple sense is when a buyer, okay, enters into a contract with a would-be seller at sabi niya, gusto kong bilhin itong property mo. Magbibigay ako ng 10,000, bigyan mo ako ng 10 days para mabili ko yung property mo. Okay? Under this instance, there is an option contract. Why? If they agreed on this one, there is consent. There is object. Yung object mo dito is your right to buy. Within, ito yun, yung right to buy mo within 10 days. Okay, within a certain time. Yung cost or consideration mo, ito yun. Yan ang option. Ngayon, Paano kung wala kang binigay na price, walang price? Pinakiusapan mo lang si seller na wag ibenta ng 10 days para bilhin mo yung property. Is there an option contract, Miss Angelica? Yung nag-recite kanina. Miss Angelica, anong first name mo na? Asuncion.
Sir, sorry po. Ano po yung tanong ulit?
Oh,
If wala po, if wala po yung 10K, sir, meron po bang option of contract? Ito po ba yung tanong niya?
Meron bang option contract?
I think, sir, wala po.
Why?
Unless, parang may undertakings or kasi sir, wala naman atong binigay na
Okay, yan
mga-
ang yung facts. Okay, let's just stick to the facts. Huwag kayong magbigay ng facts na wala sa problem. Basta yan lang yung facts. Is
Wala
there an
pong,
option?
no
Wala.
sir, kasi wala pong object. Ay, sa
Walang
baba.
object,
Opo.
walang cost, walang consideration. Kasi ang
Walang
object mo,
consideration po. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Opo. Sorry. Consideration.
walang option contract.
Wala po.
Therefore, the seller can sell the property to anyone within 10 days.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes?
sir. Opo. Sorry, sir. Kinakabahan lang ako.
Oh, sino may other answer? Miss Maria Benitez.
Since po wala naman po siyang consideration na binigay, ibig sabihin po wala po yung option money. So wala pong mag-hold dun sa kanya, dun sa promise to buy or sell yung thing for a certain period, wala po yung mag-hold sa kanya. Ibig sabihin po, pwede po, si seller pwede niya pa po ibenta sa iba yung thing kasi wala naman pong option money.
Paano kung mayroong 10K?
Ay, hindi, kapag meron po yung 10K, the seller is not allowed po to parang i-withdraw yung promise to sell niya until after nung expiration of the option po.
Paano kung wala yung 10 days?
Kasi kapag option money po, kasi required po na for a certain period po siya. Kasi what if po, kunwari, wait lang po. For example po is, kung wala po kasing certain period, hindi po maibibigay kay, for example, kay seller yung assurance na bibilhin ba talaga ni buyer yung isang determinate thing po. So, mag-aantay siya pag ganun, pag walang certain period po.
Paano kung nagkabayaran na?
Nagkabayaran na po ng option money?
Gusto ni buyer na ibawas yung 10K dun sa price. Okay lang ba?
I know po, kapag option money po kasi, hindi po siya parang part ng, distinct po siya sa purchase price. So, hindi po siya pwedeng ibawas.
Why? Bakit siya distinct?
Distinct po yung option money kasi parang lang po siya parang reservation po siya. In comparison po sa earnest money.
Di ba they are referring to the contract of sale?
Opo. Yung po kasi sir, yung
Bakit siya
option money, po,
Bakit siya distinct?
parang po kasi siya parang binibigyan pa lang po siya ng time para mag-isip kung bibilihin niya po yung isang determinating for a certain period po.
Very good. Very good. Tama yun. In an option contract, it's a separate contract from a contract of sale. Iba siya. Okay? Hindi siya inculcated or parehas sa contract of sale. Iba siya. Kasi ang object or ang subject mo dito, ang concern ng option is your right to buy within a certain time. Okay? Kaya ka nagbayad ng 10,000 para hindi ibenta ni seller sa iyo, hindi ibenta ni seller sa ibang tao yung property within a certain time. Okay, yun yung option. As long as the seller agrees. Okay, and paano siya mag-agree? If there's consent or meeting of the minds. Kapag nabili mo na, o mag-execute na naman kayo ng ibang contract, which is a contract of sale, which is different from an option contract. It is not a purchase, but merely secures a privilege to buy. Kumbaga, in other words, parang na-reserve mo yung property. Okay? It is also called unaccepted offer. Option is also called unaccepted offer. Okay? Because why? The seller, after 10 days, basta hindi niya binenta yung lupa, pwede niya pa rin ibenta kahit kanino after 10 days. Okay? Ang agreement lang naman nila is within 10 days, wag niyang ibenta sa iba. Within 10 days, wag niyang ibebenta sa iba. Yun lang yung agreement nila. If dumating na yung 10 days or after ng 10 days, at binenta niya sa iba, natapos na yung contract, then okay lang yun. Okay lang naman ang agreement nila is within a certain period of time, hindi niya ibebenta. And then, earnest money. Earnest money. Okay? It is given by the buyer to the seller to bind the bargain. It constitutes an advance payment and deducted from the total price as proof of the perfection of the contract. Meaning, comparing this one to an option contract or an option money. Okay? Itong earnest money, para siyang manifestation of good faith ng buyer. Why? Because magbabayad siya ng portion ng purchase price. Okay? Mag-advance payment na siya. Ang tawag sa earnest money minsan is aras. Aras ang tawag dyan minsan. Okay? Why? Because you're showing your intention and your good faith to buy that certain property. And it is an earnest money when there is already a perfected contract. Okay? Ibig sabihin, the seller and the buyer already agreed, there is consent as to the terminating and to the price. Nag-agree na sila dyan. Basta nag-agree sila dyan, kahit walang na-execute na contract, there is what we call meeting of the minds. Okay? Because contract under your obligations and contracts may either be oral or written, or verbal or written. Okay? So yun ang distinction niya. Yun ang distinction ni earnest money kay option money. Si option money, covered siya by a separate contract. Si earnest money, wala nang ibang contract of sale lang. Nagbibigay ka lang ng advance payment mo. Okay? Ayan yung distinction niya. Earnest and option. Earnest, part of the purchase price, sabi nga natin, advance payment. Option money, distinct. Okay? Therefore, it does not constitute a part of the purchase price. So, earnest money, given when there's already a perfected sale. Sa option money, wala pang perfected sale. Okay? So, earnest money, buyer is bound to pay the balance. Because nag-advance payment na siya. Okay? Si option money naman, would-be buyer is not required to buy. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina. After 10 days, kung tapos na yung 10 days, on the 11th day, ayaw nang bilhin ni buyer, okay lang. Or at the 11th day, binenta na ni seller, okay lang. Kasi ang agreement lang nila is within 10 days, hindi siya ibebenta. Clear? I hope that's clear, guys. Extend tayo, saglit saglit lang naman. Contract for a piece of work, I think last na ito. Hindi, dalawang items pa. Contract for a piece of work. Anong contract for a piece of work? Okay? When the thing transferred is one not in existence and would never have existed but for the order of the person desiring it. Okay? Paano yun, sir? Hindi ba sale yun? Let's say, for example, I am a manufacturer of furnitures. I manufacture tables, chairs, cabinets, and the like. Okay? Ngayon, lumapit sa akin itong si Maria Benitez. Okay? Lumapit sa akin. Sabi niya, Manong, Manong, pwede bang gumawa ka ng ganitong design na table? Okay? If this table is one not in existence, ibig sabihin wala siyang ganong table or hindi siya nagproproduce ng ganong table and would have never existed but for the order of the person desiring it, then that transaction between me and MB is a contract for a piece of work. Okay? But if this table is meron sa product list nila, dun sa list ng products na or list ng furnitures na manufacture nila, meron itong table, then hindi siya contract for a piece of work, rather it is a contract of sale. Torney, paano kung meron nga sa product list pero wala namang stocks? Ibig sabihin gagawa siya ng bago. Therefore, one that is not in existence. Pero hindi siya papasok kasi meron siya sa product list. Okay? Meaning, it is already in existence. Yun nga lang, walang stock. That is a contract of sale. Not a contract for a piece of work. So, tatandaan nyo, kapag contract for a piece of work, dapat hindi nag-e-exist or hindi mag-e-exist yun kung wala yung order ng tao. Ganun ang contract for a piece of work. Okay? Ayan. X and Y stipulated in the contract that Y would manufacture upon order of X 20,000 of vinyl frogs and 20,000 of vinyl museds according to the samples specified and approved by X. Y do not ordinarily manufacture these products but only upon the order and at the price agreed upon by X. This is a contract for a piece of work. Okay, why? Because from this fact alone, makikita mo na, why do not ordinarily manufacture these products? Pero manufacture niya lang because of the order of X and because of the price agreed upon. So, contract for a piece of work siya. Hindi siya contract of sale. Pero kung pupunta kayo sa mga furniture shops, pipili kayo ng dun sa product list, meron na, that is a contract of sale. Okay, kahit wala pang stocks, contract of sale pa rin yan. Then last, dashon and pago or dashon in payment. The debtor. Debtor, ibig sabihin, merong utang, may credit. Ibig sabihin, meron dapat creditor. Offers another thing. Nag-offer siya ng another thing to the creditor. Ayun, meron. Who accept it as equivalent of payment of an outstanding debt. So, ganito ang dashon and pago. Let's say, for example, A and B. Si A, siya yung debtor, si B, siya yung creditor. Meron siyang utang kay B na 10K. Okay? Ngayon, imbes na bayaran ni A, sabi ni A, B, kunin mo na lang itong cellphone ko. Okay, this is worth more or less 10,000. Hindi saktong 10,000, more or less 10,000 para bayaran ko yung utang ko. Kapag inaccept yan ni B, that transaction is not a contract of sale although it has the indications of a contract of sale, it is not a contract of sale but rather a dasyon in payment. Okay? Ang requisites ng isang dasyon in payment is, number one, there must be an existing debt. Okay? Merong utang na 10,000. Debtor offers another thing or right as payment. In-offer niya yung cellphone niya. There's difference between the obligation and thing offered. Ang sabi ko kanina, more or less 10,000 yan. So there is difference. And the agreement of extinguishment upon delivery. Meaning, kapag inaccept na ni B, binigay na ni A, wala na yung utang. That is dasyon in payment. Clear? I hope that's clear. Okay, 1459 will continue next meeting. Okay? So please advise those na hindi nag-attend at yung mga hindi sumagot kanina na mag-attend. Okay? So that's all. Oo pala. Napag-usapan niyo na ba with other class yung yung nag-ask kasi ako ng parang time nyo for the yung time nyo, kung ano yung free time nyo with regards to quiz. Kasi major ito. Dapat departmentalize or as one yung quiz nyo. Meron na ba kayong na-determine na day? Na-discuss nyo
Sir,
na?
nag-uusap pa lang po kami with other course po, sir.
Sige. Pwede inform nyo ako next week siguro.
Yes po, sir.
Para as one yung grades nyo. Kasi major daw to, mataas daw yung passing nyo, 80 daw. But regardless, walang nagbago sa assessment, same pa rin sa mga hindi bisak. Pero lahat kasi bisak sa akin eh. So, walang difference, same yung assessment, same lahat ang trato ko sa inyo. Okay? So, galingan nyo. Dito lang naman ako, sabi ko nga sa inyo, I will support you, I will teach you. Sana may naintindihan kayo dito sa first meeting natin. No. Let's continue next meeting. Thank you guys. Good night. Good night.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Thank you po, sir.
Sir?
Hmm.
Sir, ask ko naman po kung imimit niyo po kami next week po.
Bakit may kayo? Wala. Meron, i-meet ko kayo. Bakit meron bang program or something?
Ay, foundation po kasi, sir. Kaya tinatanong ko po.
Sige. Can you update me if merong ilalabas na order na wag magklase ba kasi may ma-violate ako? Update niyo ako.
Okay po, sir. Sige po. Okay.
Kailan mag-start?
Sir?
Kailan mag-start ang foundation?
9 po, sir.
9. Sige. Update me.
Sige po, sir.
Sige, good
Thank
night.
you po.
Okay, good night.
Shoutout sa'yo.